Live streaming is on.
Hey guys, we're live again. How's it going, everyone?
Hello.
How is the week going so far?
Good.
It's going.
All right. So our first virtual coffee meeting, I guess. I don't know if you have your coffees, but I do.
I do as well. Hot coffee through a straw, nothing better.
Hot coffee
Yeah.
with ice. That's my specialty.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, right? I know Justin for a little while now, and that is the only way he drinks coffee, through a straw, which is
Is
I
that a
don't know,
single-use straw, Justin?
What's that?
Is that a single-use straw?
Oh, yeah.
but he reuses it.
No joke, I do. It is a plastic straw, but I've probably had it for over 2 weeks now.
Good, that's good. That's how we use plastic cups too, like red Solo cups. Like we have a red Solo cup in our cupboard, which is probably, I don't know, a year old.
Well, it's not like they disintegrate when you wash it, right?
No, they're pretty sturdy actually. So very, very on topic, coStarting stuff here, very important.
Coffee habit.
Yeah. Well, coffee habits are important, I think. At least for me, certainly
Very important.
helps me get through the day. More of a habit than I think actual anything else. But
Arky's not coming.
yeah, just saw that. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Excellent. Ah, look at that.
Hi, puppy.
Nice.
Yes, he's very distracting, so forget
That's okay. We actually all have dogs, so you fit right in.
Perfect.
Cool. Well, thanks for hopping on this. We don't really have a structure for this. This is actually our first virtual coffee meeting. We live stream every Friday at 7 so far for all of our projects with coStarting. And last Friday, I think Justin actually proposed that we just have like a less formal kind of no format check-in halfway through the week, because if you're working on a project, a week sometimes is a lot and a lot of topics to discuss, and we kind of barely get through it. So the idea here is really just to have like more conversational, like talking about what we're working on right now, what went well, what didn't, maybe dive into a topic or two and try to help each other.
Cool. Very cool.
Awesome. So on the call here, so it's Justin and Emmy. I think I'll let them pitch about what they're working on here in a minute individually. And you obviously know already what I'm working on because you're my first customer. So super exciting. I was just sitting outside actually on a call with a mentor, and I had to rudely interrupt her because I got the notification from Gumroad, which is super, super cool. So thank you for that.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm curious, what's your guys' relationship like, and how did that come about, and how did that, first sale come to be?
Yeah, I'll let Kyle answer that because there is no previous relationship.
Oh,
Yeah, no.
even better.
I found you somehow on Twitter relating to something else that I follow. Saw you had a moped in your picture, and I love mopeds, so I was like, ooh, click. And then I kind of like stalked you for half a second. I was like, oh, this is really cool. So it was really just like a series of weird tweet following, and,
Nice.
and like, oh, this project's actually really awesome. I would definitely want to be a part of that. So I, click, buy, done.
Awesome, great. Well,
So I didn't even know who you were 2 hours ago or however long it's been since the sale.
I love it. So the Twitter still works, right? So I resisted Twitter for however long now, 10 years, I guess. And I just recently created a profile. I was on it with like a couple of business profiles before.
Mhm.
Never really got active.
Yeah.
But really I've been into like kind of the indie maker community for quite a while. And was trying to build my personal brand a little bit, right, with the blog and now Twitter. So seems like it's still working. Seems like your profile picture has a big impact as well. So choose wisely. That side note on the picture, that was actually on the Bonneville Salt Flats, somewhat closer to you where you are, I think, because we're in Florida.
Mhm.
Like half a year ago or so, and we picked that moped up in Jersey. I bought that years ago, had it stashed with a friend, dragged it through half the world, drove it around the Bonneville Salt Flats for a little bit, and then sold it somewhere at a coffee shop to a random guy in Utah.
Nice.
Yeah. So quite a story there. Yeah. So again, thank you so much. Right. This is cool because what we were working on, I don't know if you had time yet to dig into anything else, but so CoinDrop is my project for our coStarting cohort, and coStarting is a kind of a framework and methodology I've been working on for a little while now, which is bigger than what we are doing right now. But the core concepts are kind of like openness, right? That build in public movement, and really just laying it all out there because we believe in, that community building, and the feedback you're getting from doing so vastly outweighs like secrecy, right? And IP protection. If you have actually, I don't know, if you work on chemical IP protected stuff, maybe you're not the right fit for it, but that's kind of how we operate. Then another aspect is collaborative startups, right? And what we are not actively kind of implementing this yet, but I believe strongly that there is a better way, or at least an alternative way to start companies, right? And I think we see that a lot in the open source community, where people just kind of join into startup or projects. And I believe that we might be able to do something similar with actual companies, right? And like commercial products. So the core idea, and this is all very, very raw still, so there's a lot of questions and no answers to them yet, but we're starting to put the pieces into place. And then, how do you collaborate? How do you measure contribution? How does someone just join, right? Like, I think I would love this to kind of develop into something kind of self-organizing, self-managing, where anyone can just join projects and become, an owner in a way. What that exactly means is also unclear. Traditionally, you would have equity, right? There's dollars in equity. Maybe in the future, because I'm clearly into crypto, maybe there's like a tokenized system, and the consensus algorithm in the background kind of helps, making those decisions. So a lot of very theoretical and very abstract concepts there so far. But that's what's been in my head for a year or so now, and I just kind of tinkered on it, in private, and recently started talking to Arki, which is another person in the cohort. We're 5. 2 of the other guys can't make it today. And we both realized that we just want help kind of launching something, right? Because you're an entrepreneur yourself, it seems, from what I've dug up so far. So the initial launching it is just really incredibly hard, right? For myself, I struggle with over-engineering everything. I always think it's not ready. It needs to have this and that and bells and whistles, and now if this is a competitor, I need to do it differently. And I just never launched, right? Like, it's the story of my life. 1,000 products which are just rotting away somewhere in the abyss. So that's how we came up with this cohort, and very quickly, in a matter of kind of 2 weeks, just threw it together. So we said, we're going to have 5 projects, 5 people, independently working on what they're doing. We all committed $100, right? Like, we just put like something small on the table, and said, if we don't do what we commit to doing, then that's gone. It's in a money pool right now, so that, like, let's say Arki, pick on Arki because he's not here. Let's say Arki is not going to launch, then his $100 will be split by everyone else who did launch, right? It's not a lot, but, kind of a little bit more motivation. But the biggest part is kind of coming out of, that peer group we are building, right? So everyone, like I said earlier, commits to streaming once a week, commits to blogging about their project at least once a week, and ideally tweeting about it once a day. So if you saw my tweets, they kind of have that achievement, learning, plan for tomorrow kind of structure, right? Which, we borrow a little bit there from kind of the Scrum methodology. That's like your daily check-in, right? And then you have our weekly stand-up, our daily stand-up and our weekly check-ins. And it seems to be working really good so far. Yeah, so that a little bit of background. You can dig deeper into that and under costartup.co if you want to. And we would love any feedback you have for CoinDrop, for coStarting, for whatever you have so far, or questions. And I have a tendency to talk too much, so I'll hand it over back to you for a minute, and then we'll also let Emmy and Justin talk about what they're working on.
Yeah, no, cool. I'm going to stay muted the majority of the time just because, other activities around. So if I start talking and forget that I'm muted, just remind me. Yeah, no, actually, I remembered it was a ClickUp tweet that
Mhm.
brought me over, and kind of seeing the how you had your tweets structured and things like that. I'm one of those people who has a really hard time staying focused on projects. So I've got a lot of random projects that I'm personally working on, and I kind of just go based on whatever I feel like working on for the day, which means nothing ever gets done. So seeing that structure really got me interested, and that's why I started digging into everything. And yeah, actually, I think that crypto tokenization idea is actually a really cool one. So I would definitely maybe lean into that a little bit more from a personal standpoint. I think that would be a really cool idea. But yeah, not really sure what else to say. I love the idea of the coStarting. I think that's a great idea, especially because I'm so disorganized. Having that accountability, actually, I really think that is something that could work really, really well in a lot of the entrepreneurial spaces. So I think this is cool that you guys are working on this.
Awesome, cool. Thank you so much. Give us a bit of background on what you're working on.
Yeah, well, I work in
something with WordPress, right? I saw.
Yeah, I'm mostly WordPress related. I like to do a lot of automation type stuff. So my ultimate goal is to build a platform for the majority of the types of entrepreneurs that I work with, which are people who are not tech savvy at all. They're on a tighter budget than what they could use for like Kajabi or something like that. So it's kind of like a preschool version of Kajabi, if you want to word it kind of that way. Something that helps people get off the ground, helps them with the tools that they need. I like to make tech more accessible to people, which is probably one of the reasons that I got real excited about your project, because it makes crypto more acceptable.
Sounds like there could be a good connection there with Steve, one of the other cohort members here, where he's trying to build out an engagement platform to help the solopreneur, especially those who are not so technically inclined as well, to engage more with their customer base or to grow their customer base.
Yeah, that would definitely be something cool to hear more about as well, for sure.
Yeah, definitely dig into that. His project's called Babblebox. If you click on either the mycostartup.co link in my bio or something, you'll find him, or on Twitter.
Actually, I have it pulled up in another tab already. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, so yeah, his project's pretty cool. It's similar to how you think about ClickUp, where they have the slogan "one tool to rule them all," right? Mm-hmm. I think he's kind of thinking about like one portal to manage all your communities, right? Like indie hackers and Reddit and Hacker News and all of that. Because it's a lot, right? And Twitter, and like if you really want to be engaged with your communities, I mean that's your day, right? That's all the hours in the day right there.
Yeah.
Cool, awesome. Hey, Arky.
Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I was really trying to get in here as soon as possible, and I didn't realize it was already noon. And but anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries at all. Quick introduction. So Arky, like I said, also a cohort member. I'll let him talk about what he's working on. Kyle here, the new face, is my first customer for CoinDrop, Arky.
Nice. Oh, yeah. That's sweet. All right, that's cool.
Yeah. Cool. Wow, yeah, Arky. So
tell us a
little bit.
Sure. So I'm doing an Instagram bot. The goal here, I started an Instagram channel of my cooking thing during the COVID. I started it in January 1st on 2020, and I grew it to a few followers, like 1,400. It's not about the number. I know that's nothing compared to the real people who attract a lot of traffic. But then it occurred to me that a lot of the time I spent on Instagram is about finding recipes, right? Inspiration for what to cook next. So I decided to run or create this bot. I call it Umami, that is going to scan Instagram for the hottest recipes this week, given a channel, let's say hashtag vegan or hashtag barbecue. Then based on your preferences, going to give you a recommendation, right? And the recommendation comes as a mention on Instagram. So I redirect traffic to the content creators. I'm not taking the pictures or the recipe. I'm just pointing people out to those posts. So now the struggle that I'm having this week is that although the bot is working, I need to do the outreach, because without getting the word out, this is never going to attract any customers, right? And here the goal is not necessarily, or I mean, I want to test the idea whether is anyone willing to maybe pay $1 a month for such recommendations. But also now I'm seeing that there is a lot of more potential to it. For example, given a piece of text from wherever it comes, can I classify it as whether it's a recipe, and also what kind of recipe? Is it Italian or Indian or whatever that is? So I guess those are ideas for future projects. But maybe talking about this experience, it's good to have very well-defined goals to focus on the MVP. And also, as you go, you realize that there is a lot more to it. It's not just in this case, the bot or the technology, but really building an audience around it. And I'm really bad at it, so I need to get started. I'm a bit procrastinating on that, but it will get there soon. Can you guys see my face, or am I still?
No.
Oh, sorry.
No, unless it's very round and you have a new tattooed A in the middle of it.
Yeah, sorry guys. I don't know what's going on, but anyway. Oh, there it is.
There you
All
go.
right,
There we
sorry
are. Yeah.
guys. Sorry, I was talking blindly here. But yeah, so
No worries.
that's it, Kyle. So good to have you here.
So, Archie, with community building, what I'm super excited about right now is, that there was no link between Kyle and myself, right? Like, so what we are doing, and Emmy can attest to it. I was just like blown away like an hour ago when the first sale came in, right? The email came in, and I'm like, holy shit, I don't know this name, right? Like, it's not a friend who bought this right now. So, so what we're doing, like that outreach on, on Twitter and with the blogs and everything, it does work, I think. And it's, I'm just blown away because literally my profile is like 2 months old on Twitter. And with just, 2 weeks or 3 weeks into this exercise with coStarting, it has generated a pre-sale, right? So I'm just super happy to see that we kind of are on a track which hopefully will help, right? And we've seen it with Steve, to talk about that for a second, since he's not here. Like, his outreach seems to be pretty good too, right? He has a couple of signups, I believe, already as well. So I don't know. It's awesome. It's awesome.
So Kyle, I'm curious. So how did you end up in the Coin Drop Me? Is it like a random Google search, or did you hear it from Twitter, or what's the thing? Because I heard your remarks about the coStarting, that you like the idea, but I'm just curious to see how the original contact was made.
Yeah, so I follow ClickUp on Twitter, and so it kind of went via that way. It was a tweet or a retweet that mentioned ClickUp in it, and then I was like, what is this coStarting thing? So I did a deep dive into that. I also I mentioned a little bit earlier, I saw the moped in his profile picture, and I'm a big moped head, so I was like, oh, what's this about? Click, and then I get nerdy about tech, and so when I found out what he was working on, I got really excited about it, and I was like, okay, I'm in. And then boom.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. All right, cool. This is.
I bet you had no idea.
Success story.
Just buying something on pre-sale would lead to being in a live video call the same day.
Yeah, it's a requirement. 2 hours after purchasing, you got to be on a video call with a stranger.
You're basically on the track to being famous now with us. So
yeah.
You're welcome.
No, this is actually really cool. It's kind of opened my eyes to a whole new way of doing business and getting started with your startup ideas online. I really think the collaborative thing is the way to go. They do these things called masterminds in a lot of the groups that I don't really participate in the masterminds, but I typically help people with the tech who are in the masterminds. And this is kind of like a spin-off of that, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I love that you say that, because a dear friend of mine and the mentor I mentioned earlier I was on the phone with, she actually has a mastermind company, right? So her company is called InFounders. And so certainly a lot of what I'm thinking about is inspired by masterminds. I've been in a few myself, and I know the power of that peer group of others who are going through similar things or are in a similar stage in their company and in their life, right? And I think what we often miss, especially now that the world's remote first, right, is that connection beyond that. Because sure, maybe you have a consultant or you hire someone or whatever, maybe even engage with people online about the problems you have on Stack Overflow. But really building that personal connection and that trust and diving into some things is often kind of getting lost, in my opinion. And that's what masterminds do super well. So like, I think that when Arki and I talked about this at first, we just said, okay, the two of us, let's just do it, right? And then, of course, my brain kicked into overdrive, and I said, all right, I need to find a couple more people to do this together, right? And create the website and all of that. But like that interpersonal connection and just kind of doing something together to motivate each other, right? Like even Arki even stopped me from dropping coin drop, no pun intended there, because I wanted to focus more on the coStarting cohort itself, because I'm kind of like doing both things right now, right? Being a participant and also trying to build the methodology and all of that around it. But cool. Emmy, tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah. So my company is called Gigless Garments, and I actually started the original thing 3 or 4 years ago now, just reselling vintage clothing. And I really got into like the sustainability aspect of buying secondhand and reintroducing clothing items into the economy. So a lot of times you don't think about the fact that in America we throw out 11 million tons of textiles per year. So if we can use those fabrics and keep them from, ending up in a landfill while we generate more polyester plastic blend things that are going to break down and become microplastics, it just makes a lot of sense to reuse what we have. And so even more recently, I started sewing, and so I started upcycling some of my vintage fabrics and things that didn't sell into pet accessories. And now I'm working on more and branching out more and making mini skirts and headbands and stuff like that. So it's been like a real growth thing. And so for the purpose of the cohort, I'm focusing on community building and building my blog and getting people involved in sustainable fashion and DIY upcycling projects and stuff like that. And I just made a cute little thing this morning because the cat was being very photogenic. So hang on a sec, let me share my screen.
Yes, she is.
There we go. So that's a patchwork coat that I made for her.
I attribute all of our views and success with coStarting so far to the occasional cat showing up. Like Arki said in the beginning, the internet loves cats. The algorithms detect it, and they just redirect traffic to us.
That is actually an adorable coat. My dog has a collection of coats because he hates to be cold. So I might need to pick your brain about some cute ideas for
oh yeah, totally.
all of that.
Another store too.
So excited to be featured now.
You got a few up for sale already, right?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Yeah, go check out like her project also on the coStarting landing page, of course. And Emmy, what's your discount code?
Oh
for
yeah, it's cohort love 10 will get you 10% discount on Etsy.
Oh, cool! Thanks.
Kyle's now everybody's #1 customer. You don't need Kyle.
Everyone but Steve, because he didn't come.
Yeah, no, definitely don't buy from Steve. That's for sure.
Yeah, but Kyle, maybe you should consider maybe for to be part of the next cohort or something. If you have some ideas that you want to do in a short period of time to try it out.
Oh, definitely. I'm one of those people who I have a lot of big project ideas, but launching them is always where I end up falling short. So I need to be able to get my idea out quickly in order to gain that like momentum and that excitement of actually continuing working on the project. So I think the next round would be fantastic.
Yeah, because otherwise, you might start it or scratch a surface on it, but then you kind of lose interest on it because you know that there's no end in sight. Whereas here, it gives you a definitive timetable, which is what really I really liked about this, the idea there when Sven approached me on it. And because my biggest problem too is simply discipline and accountability. If I have no accountability, then the thing's always going to remain an idea in my head, or maybe I'll open the project and create something for a half an hour, and then it's never looked at or touched again. Mm-hmm. So that's why I thought, for me, personality-wise, is a perfect fit because you have that accountability and kind of forced participation that makes you need to deliver something on a daily or weekly basis, and then actually launch something. Whether it's an MVP version of the product or I mean, whatever your criteria is, you of course make your own launch criteria. But that's what really drew me in, and that's why I've been having a blast here. I think it's been 2.5 weeks now, and I feel like I've done more than 2.5 weeks working on a side project than I've done in the last 10 years because I just simply don't ever stick to anything. So I'm having a great time with it, and I guess that kind of leads into my project, which I'm building a Mac desktop application called Optionator to help have an easy-to-use way to manage and track your stock and options trading portfolio. So by no means is it a $1 billion idea. There's plenty that exist already. But like I said, I wanted to actually build something from scratch and launch it in this 30-day window and actually complete something, right? So actually come full circle and launch. So I figured this is something that it should be easy enough to be able to do, and it'll be the first time. Years and years and years ago, over a decade ago, I used to develop software and sell it and support it myself, and I loved doing that. And then just kind of fell to the wayside. So I've always been thinking and talking about it. Even in the years that I've met Sven, I've said, I kind of just want to have something to light that fire underneath me again, and nothing could ever sustain it. So now this cohort came to be, and I think I'll actually be launching something in 2 weeks.
You better, or you lose your $100.
Right.
So we actually started, Archie and I were saying 1,000, right? Because we're like, we need something to really hurt if we don't do it. But then we're like, all right, let's just start small, right? And that's kind of to bring it full circle, like you're saying, Kyle, right? That you have a lot of big ideas. I think we all do. As entrepreneurs, that's kind of a curse and a blessing, right? Because I started just writing them down in Notion and thinking about it a little bit, and then I have a place if I think about something new. At least they're kind of out of my head and onto paper, and then I allow myself to more forget about it. But you still need to make money somehow, right? You want to sustain your life outside of corporate America. At least, some of us do. And to get one of those ideas then out. So for me, CoinDrop was actually randomly chosen out of that pool of ideas. And I think let's not pick CoinDrop, let's pick BattleBox, right? Steve's idea, where at first, and Steve is a friend of Justin's, that's how he got in. And at first he was like not going to join because, the context was too large, right? And then I think Justin talked to him a bit more about it. And that's exactly the point. Let's break it down, right? Like, what is the true minimum viable product in the purest word of the sense of the word you can launch with your idea? So I think I like to believe he did that and really broke it down and just said, okay, let me just do that one aspect of my big idea and launch that with this cohort and then go from there, right? And I'm a big believer in that. I think, like, let's just fucking launch it, right? Like, just anything. It really doesn't matter because odds are whatever you dream up is going to change significantly anyway once you have users on it and they tell you what they actually want. So whatever your big idea is, or whichever one of them you want to work on, break them down, right? And as a matter of fact, that's kind of the first week pre-cohort, or I guess it was cohort, but we didn't go live at it yet, was that idea sizing, right? We got together and we talked about what we want to work on and how can we package that into a 1 month. That was our biggest criteria. We just wanted to do it in 1 month. Doesn't mean every launch track cohort needs to be only 1 month, can be also 3. Depends on what is worked on, but that's how it ended up. And that's why it's, for me, for example, it's not the entire Bitcoin wallet, because I would have just not been able to do it, right? Like, personally, with all of my other responsibilities. So I said, okay, what is the minimum viable product? Well, if I can prove any traction, and clearly I could already, which is why I'm so excited, that people would want this, then I'll build it, right? So at the end of the month, well, I'm actually ahead of schedule, so which is also great. But now I have an indicator, right? If I find a couple more people who actually would want to reserve that, then we'll go on, and maybe that goes into like a MVP market fit kind of cohort or something like that, right? Anyone else?
Ben, did you tell your other news about the?
Oh yes, no, I did not. Yeah, so that's actually, it's related, right? Because that's how I found CoinDrop. So yesterday I was super stoked. I started a new job as an entrepreneur in residence yesterday, and towards the end of the day, I got a tweet from Chris Cunningham, one of the founding members of ClickUp, responding to my just brazen like tweet at ClickUp, where like I'm German, right? Like I have no filter. I just cold call and cold email and cold tweet everyone. And I just responded to ClickUp because we were referencing that quote I mentioned earlier because of BattleBox. And ClickUp responded, and I was like, hey guys, random thought here. Do you ever sponsor anything like this, right? Like our cohort? And they're like, oh yeah, interesting concept, email us at partnerships@clickup.com or something. So I was going to put that a bit more, formally packaged together in an email. And then in between, Chris responded to that tweet and said, hey, I don't know if you got a response, but I would be very interested in talking about it, And I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. And, little wins like this, right, is kind of at the core of this cohort too, where just do one thing at least every single day. This is not a new concept, right? There's thousands of books about it, but holy shit, man, like that carries you through the week like crazy. So I have a meeting scheduled with Chris for Wednesday, actually. I don't know what's going to come out of it. Odds are they're not going to be, a sponsor straight up, but I think ClickUp is a great company. They're on a trajectory to the moon, in my opinion. Their growth is like Slack used to be. First of all, their founder is awesome. How they run their company is awesome. They ship every single week new features. And just what the product does is it's such a powerful productivity tool where I think the broader coStarting concept, that's kind of how I want to at least talk to Chris about it. That I think tools like that can be utilized in the broader coStarting, methodology and framework to really kind of facilitate that collaboration and track contribution and make the individual contributors' lives easier, right? Because it would be foolish of me to think that like I'm going to just orchestrate all of the tools and build all of these platforms to make this new idea of working happen, right? Like that's not my intention at all. I just want to see it be reality, and I want to align with companies who kind of share, who I believe kind of share that value and have that that vision in what working can become. And I do believe ClickUp could align with that. So I'm looking forward to that conversation.
All right. I think we could even evaluate the platform, right? I mean, maybe not for this cohort, but in the future, we could try it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So I use it personally quite a bit. I think it's awesome. It's like, it really is one tool to rule them all from a productivity, task tracking perspective, automations, forms, right? Like it does a little bit of everything, and it new features every week, and it's fairly priced too, which is the key, right? I think it's a couple of bucks a month for like the smaller license, which is enough for yourself, and it does so much, right? And if you make it part of your kind of daily routine, I think it's great. Where I built for the previous company, I was like in a couple minutes, I built the form to take files from a designer who was external to the company through to our internal team, right? Like through automations, they get notified, they prove it, then it gets sent out to the print shop and so forth. Like you do that in literally 10 minutes if you're familiar with the tool, versus me as the engineer in the past, I was always like, oh yeah, I can code that, right? 3 days later, we had nothing. And the new priority came up.
Yeah. Good. So, guys, I'm really sorry, but I need to drop out now. I like this format. It's like this unstructured way. It's just a good discussion. But I need to drop now. I need to go and pick up kids from school.
Yeah, no worries. I think this is not, we don't have a format for this, right? Like what I'm actually hoping, and we started off great with it with Kyle, is that we could try to make this just like also the community forum, right? Like as we gain more traction, that people can just hop into this meeting and just, share ideas, give comments, hopefully build a fan base for the products we're building and all of that. If you guys are all okay with that.
Yep.
Mhm.
Cool.
All right, guys. I gotta drop. Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Awesome.
See you
See
guys.
you later,
Bye.
Archie. So Kyle, what ideas would you be thinking about? Like what's the North Star for you?
All right, well, I'm in debates about two different ideas. So the first one would actually align a lot with what you're talking about, which is kind of funny. There is I wanted to put together a community / like learning platform. So it'd be kind of like a course platform, kind of like a membership site for people who build their own businesses. I'd call it a DIY Biz Academy. And so that people can go in, they can learn the tech that they need. They can learn, if there's like marketing strategies or whatever, like there'd be lessons on that type of stuff, but there'd also be a really strong community aspect to that. And it's really funny that you mentioned the tokenization, and this is why I'm so excited about that idea, is because I wanted to create an on-platform currency to make it so that way they could trade services or give people like kudos, kind of like you do on Reddit, for the people who are the most helpful and contributive. So it actually helps enhance more of that engagement, but then lets people who might be on a tighter budget because they're just getting off the ground to be able to have services rendered in other ways, and then they could trade that currency in for money if they wanted to. So they could cash out some of that or use it towards credits, towards other types of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting, right? Because I think tokens, of course, there's a lot of questions to be answered, especially with the SEC being, quite on top of it now. It's not the Wild West anymore, but, well, it still is. But, if you want to do it right, you need to be careful. And But what a token has is very powerful, which is very powerful, I think, is that it has equity and reward both in one, right? Like, so, and I say reward because it's not just dollars. There's more than that, but like equity in dollars, right? And how I look at it for coStarting is that if you're in that imaginary world where a platform or whatever the solution is, I don't know, but however people can just join a project and contribute, and somehow there is a way we measure actually contribution and they get rewarded for that contribution, right? If that's by popular vote or consensus algorithm, or I don't know, but then they get that reward in form of a token in some way, shape, or form, and that has equity, but also liquidity, right? So if they want to say, just contribute with one article, which then, I don't know, has 10 points or whatever, however we measure that. We tossed around the idea before, like maybe tasks are pre-evaluated, kind of like in Scrum, right? They have 10 points assigned. If you solve it, that's what you get. But even that's very much an open question. But you get those 10 points, or then that's those 10 tokens. And it's up to you if you want to keep contributing and make those 10 tokens worth more, or if you just want to liquidate them, right? Like and change them to Ethereum or Bitcoin or dollars, if it's traded on an exchange. So I think that could be very powerful. I'm also sure I'm not the first one to think about it in this way. There is equity tokenization, systems now out there, but I agree, like that. It seems to be logical, right? Like what I want to focus on is that connection of ownership, right? And that feeling of ownership, because like as far as I've been, watching trends in the market and watching projects and following projects and creators and creatives, that people like to work on things they can identify with, right? If that's open source, or if that's, I always bring up Martin from Wintergarten, it's YouTube channel I follow, he has this crazy community, right? Like he has 20 people on his CAD team who self-organized and self-formed and do the entire CID to sign off his machine he's building over the last couple of years, right? Just because they want to be a part of the community. And I think that is so powerful. And his concept is slightly different. He's not building a commercial venture with this or anything, but it would be great if those people who contribute can also have a piece of ownership, right? And get a reward. And traditionally, it's super complicated because like giving someone options or shares, it's just not that simple, right? So I'm really, really excited to try to figure this out over the next couple years, probably. Cool. What's the other idea? That was your first one.
Oh yeah, the other one is it's basically utilizing WordPress multi-site to create that platform where people who are just getting started, mostly like freelancers, they have like an all-in-one place that they can go. They can have their website. They can have their email list. They can have a way to just easily invoice people or sell like online products. I wouldn't really do physical products, but just something simple for them to be able to get started that doesn't cost as much as like a Kajabi would, or something where you need to use 3,000 different platforms all in different areas, and you're trying to learn how to organize all of that. Like it would basically just be like one hub for them to be able to get started.
Awesome. So now, by the time we talk next, whenever that is, break it down. If in the theoretical world there is no start date for cohort 2 yet, so I'm not going to hold you accountable to anything, but if in that theoretical world you were to do something like that, something like a cohort, coStarting cohort, what would be the first part you can build in a month or two, right? Think about that. I think that's the first step, right? Because if you can do that first step by yourself, or more or less at least by yourself, I think the community will build around it, or the team might build around it. At least that's how I foresee coStarting, because I think the team building is extremely hard, right? And I enjoy working in a team very much so, because that, having a co-founder or just other team members to share the load and bounce off ideas and just bullshit on a day-to-day too, it's very important. But in these early days, at least in my experience, it can also get very much in the way, right? Because now you're getting in bed with someone who you think and they might be your best friend, but you never worked together, and it could stifle your ideas right from the get-go, right? And you just don't have the luxury to talk about every single detail. So I think if we can provide a framework to just have initial ideas get off the ground and then see where they go from there, like I still think people need to be able to join fairly easily. But a lot of the entrepreneurs out there are just also not, or a lot of the makers, I want to say, are not the typical entrepreneurs who want to start something from scratch and see it all the way through, but they want to be, what's it called, intrapreneurs? Or no, I guess that's in the corporate context. But you guys know what I mean? Like just kind of contributive entrepreneurs, right? Like they might not want to have the responsibility of everything and do the accounting and set up the fucking company and all of that shit, which just gets in the way.
It could be cool for a lot of other things too. Like I know you think about it a lot from a tech and like app building perspective, but like being in e-commerce too, a lot of people have these little ideas or want to get into knitting or sewing or whatever, like I do, but it's not necessarily a big fully fledged business, but still, if you have that accountability, you can kind of work on projects in a way that is going to help you learn and kind of contribute something to your overall knowledge. So it doesn't have to just apply to like tech stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Justin, are you stressed?
It's not a stress ball. It helps build your forearms.
Yeah, you tell yourself that. So, has anyone stuck on anything this week, or anything special happened in the project? Talked a lot about CoinDrop, and I have, of course, 2 successes there we talked about, but or any successes as well, right? On your guys' things.
Not really. I'm still procrastinating reaching out to people.
Would have been a great time to already have this launched because of the huge GameStop short squeeze that's been going on the Wall Street Bets subreddit. I mean, it's been on the front page of Fox News and CNN, CNBC, and it's caused a large hedge fund to have to transfer $2.75 billion or an injection because they're going to not be able to fill all of their short calls or their shorts rather. That will come due this Friday. It's projected, I think 80,000 of them, and each one is 100 shares that they'll probably have to then buy. So they've been jacking up the price. I even got involved a little bit. I bought $1,000 worth just to see, and it's already up 10%. But they're expecting when the short squeeze happens, that it's going to skyrocket up to about $1,000 per share, up from 80 or so now. So we'll see if that happens. And then, of course, I have a limit order in now to sell it as soon as it. Right now, I have it at 300. It would be a little over 3x my return, and that might happen this week. But anyway, the point of that, though, is that when reading these threads on Wall Street Bets, because of all of the popularity from all this happening, that subreddit has grown from 1.6 million to 2.2 million subscribers in the past 4 days alone. And if you look at these threads where they gather 50,000 comments every few hours, if you sort by new, nobody ever replies to these because there's so many coming in. But it's people saying, oh, I'm coming here from or coming here from the homepage, and just because this thread got so much attention, it's on my front page. I have no idea anything to do about stocks, but it looks like this is an easy way to make money. What do I do? Or they're asking for like the very first steps. Whereas, where this case is different, they want everybody to pump up the stock price by buying shares. So it's very, very straightforward. But a lot of what Wall Street Bets do is options trading. So that, though, is extremely complex. And I figured, like, for these brand new people, they could use this portfolio or their fake portfolio to punch in and pretend that they're doing some trades and see how the returns come about, or where the riskiness is, instead of just going and actually blowing $1,000 and then losing it all, or exponentially more than that if they really don't know what they're doing. So that's like a perfect use case, because these people have no idea what they're doing, and it's like, okay, well, let's not use your real money here yet. Just play around with a portfolio and see what could happen when you make your decisions, or by reading a meme.
Can you reach out to them? I'm not sure about the terms of service for Reddit on this, but could you just scrape all of these noobs basically and direct message them? It's like, hey, I saw your message. As a matter of fact, I'm working on Optionator here. Like, this might be able to help you. Like, of course, phrase it kind of personalized, right?
Right.
But you actually, your intentions are right, I think, in actually trying to help them, and it's not like you're gonna get rich of it by any means. Maybe even, like we talked to Steve the other day, maybe just give it to them for free, right? For the first year or something. And then the other question I have: aren't pump and dumps illegal? Like, isn't it still illegal if we do it for Reddit?
If it's stock manipulation, but that's coming from someone of power or a financial institution, whereas these are literally just people, on a forum saying, oh, what's funny is if you read all of them from experienced ones, are like, I think GameStop is a really good company and a really good stock. You should invest in it.
Yeah. Interesting. I wonder what the laws are on this, because it's probably a gray area, right?
Well, like these hedge funds and like these talking heads that are on CNBC are saying, oh, Wall Street Bets is going to the SEC is going to investigate the entire subreddit, where it's just they're upset because, they're actually able to, well, quote unquote, I guess, manipulate. But, it's not them that are typically manipulating it, right? Because they can go ahead and release something to where the stock's going to tank, and then they'll go ahead and buy up all the shares. Whereas now they're not the ones in control. It's literally just being infiltrated by hundreds of thousands of people buying 10 shares each, instead of one hedge fund buying 250,000 shares.
Yeah, but it's still, at the core, it's still a pump and dump, right? Where, well, more or less, I think, where it doesn't matter. The question is, how does the SEC interpret that? Like, even if there is no puppet master, those 100,000 people still did that with that intention, right? I mean, most likely, because sure, if someone if we're almost guaranteed, or like having a strong assumption about a crash, which will triple the value, and that's why we buy in and we organized around this. That's pretty edgy.
Right. But that's why you see a lot of material out there too, saying, well, GameStop is turning around. They just brought in 3 new board members. I think the founder of Chewy is on there. They're going to redo their entire e-commerce solution. So I think that, it's a veiled attempt at exactly that, but saying, well, you have the possibility that 3 years from now, they're going to be churning a profit.
Yeah, it's interesting. I saw one Twitter. It was actually before I even knew anything about the craziness of it. I saw one guy tweet, isn't GameStop essentially Radio Shack, right? And I was like, yeah, you know what? That probably is right. But just thinking about the company itself, right? Because Radio Shack obviously didn't do so well. But now hearing all of this, I don't know, it's a little bit.
Well, what's crazy too is you can see a couple of posts that were back in early and mid 2019 that we're predicting this, and then the biggest player here that's now the god of Wall Street bets was the guy that put in $53,000 in calls in like April 2019. And you look through all the kind of like, what the hell is the matter with you? What, this is GameStop. If you just want to throw your money away, give it to me. You are such an idiot. Why in the hell did you pick this? And then every month he would post an update. And then obviously everything started slowly happening around December. And then he started doing daily and now weekly updates. And that 53K now is at, well, on Monday when it hit the peak of 150, it was at like $28 million.
Oh my God.
But now he's at 13 to 14 million.
Damn.
Actually, more than that, because he's actually already closed out some of his calls. So he's already made a few million that he's transferred out. But
yeah, his principal is definitely secure.
And people thought that he was just kind of like blindly, he was a trust fund kid or something and didn't really know what he was doing and this and that. But then he finally started doing these live streams, and it's quite clear that he did months of a full-time analysis, and that's what he concluded a year or 2 years ago, and now he's reaping his reward.
Well, good for him. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, you need to. That's exactly the stuff you need to capitalize on, right? Like, get on those people. Like, don't take advantage of it, of course, but like, that's a great marketing channel for you right now. And even if you're you're super involved in Reddit anyway. Just start the conversation, right? And I don't know if I'm not on Reddit at all, but like, is it just like Twitter, right? Like how we got Kyle in here. Like, is there a way where you can just seed what you're working on and people see it, right? People will click through. They will notice stuff.
Yeah. So I can see. I'm sure that there's. They obviously have APIs, so I'm sure that there's a way that I could then grab all the users that posted on a single thread and then try to DM them from there.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, that would be interesting to see what happens with that. Good. I'm glad you identified that. See, spending hours and hours a day on Reddit finally is paying off.
Right. Who knew?
I know nothing about Reddit or stocks, but my best friend talked to me the other day about Wall Street bets, and I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about.
That's funny.
Well, the sad thing is, too, because so many people don't know what they're doing, that they're obviously going to be losing a lot of money as well.
Well, it's a zero-sum game, right?
Well, like these people, too, that are investing, even if they only buy a few shares, so it's a few $100s, but they're more than likely, because if they don't know what they're doing and they only have a few shares, they probably don't have much disposable income. So that might be all of their available, funds that they have for the next month. And then because when it does skyrocket, it's going to tank immediately afterwards, like instantly. So they're not going to be able to execute their transaction fast enough because they didn't put in a limit order to automatically have that happen for them. So then all of those people that went in doing that are going to lose all of their money.
Yeah. But this is not financial advice, though, Justin. You need to add that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, look at you. Like, I remember 2 weeks ago, you're like, I really need to get into how this all works. Now you're already doing trades on your own.
Oh, man. And actually, just as of right now, it's skyrocketing again. I didn't look into it. My buddy just said it's up 900. What? That's not true. If that's true, then I just sold mine. Oh, it's up 48%. Oh, he's up 900 in his options. Oh, well, but either way, it's up 50% today. 50%.
Crazy. That's like Bitcoin, man. It's like the volatility of Bitcoin.
I know. So it's funny. I was just, very, I never wanted to get involved, but then when it hit 40K last month, I'm like, well, maybe I could just put in 1,000, and then when it doubles, I'll just take it back out. And then of course that's when it crashed back down to 30 again. So I'm like, oh, thank goodness. But yeah, I mean, that's all it is gambling. So if you got play money, in my opinion, then that's when to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, cryptos are awesome, right? Like, I think it's very interesting, but it's just like the stock market too. Like, if you just put money in without actually doing your research and staying on top of it, it's most likely not going to work, right? I mean, that's you've seen it. You were in our geographical region here when it first got crazy and all of these meetups popped up and the 60 to 80-year-old crowd flocked in and just begged to put their money into this stuff. I mean,
well, that, and also there was Zarella's friend. I think his name. Well, I won't say his name since this is live streaming. But he'd come to all the meetups, and he said that he took out like a second mortgage and all of his life savings and put it all into Bitcoin. And it was right when it was at like 19K was the last high back in December, like 5 years ago or 4 years ago. And then after it tanked, he never saw him again.
Jeez.
Yeah, that's not good. It's not good. Yeah, you need to follow that stuff. I mean, there's so much out there where now, of course, they think that we are on the precipice of a third run after the third halving, right? Maybe like the chart looks like it might happen, but it's like, especially in crypto, like the charts don't behave like what we are used to from stock market, right? It's something completely different. Like the volatility and the pump and dumps are so much crazier. And now you see it actually working on a like, it's not an S&P 500, right? I don't know whatever GameStop is at, but like a fairly legitimate company, right? Which gets manipulated like this by the crowd, just by sheer numbers. So, right. I mean, that's scary shit. Anyways, we're getting a little bit off topic here. This is interesting to talk about, though. So I think we're coming up on an hour here anyway. We don't need to keep those conversations too long. But is there anything else we want to talk about in preparation of our next check-in for week 3 of this cohort?
Nothing I could think of.
No?
I don't think I have anything.
Okay, cool. Kyle, anything else you want to say to us? Any questions you might have before we end today?
No, not at this time, but man, I really appreciate you guys inviting me on here and let me kind of sit in while you guys talk about what you're up to. It actually gets me more excited to go back and work on my own stuff. That community aspect, man, the environment is just contagious. So now I'm gonna hop off and actually get some stuff done today where I was just gonna watch TV. So
cool. Awesome. Hey, do me a favor and just, put a hashtag coStarting on it or something, or like, spread the word and we'll grow this slowly and hopefully make it into a movement.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and stay productive.
Right, thanks, you too.
Yeah, take care.
Bye.